The observation deck of Relay Point Epsilon stretched wide and clear, showing the endless stars beyond. Jiho stood there with his data pad, reviewing notes about the Kylen delegation. He was 28 years old and worked as a xenolinguist for Earth's diplomatic corps. His job was to help aliens and humans understand each other. He liked the work. It was quiet, careful, and important. The door opened with a soft sound. Jiho turned and saw her for the first time. She was tall, maybe 7 feet, with skin that looked like liquid silver. Patterns of light moved slowly across her arms and neck, glowing soft blue in the dim room. Her eyes were crystalline, reflecting the starlight like precious gems. She wore simple robes that seemed to flow like water. "You must be Ambassador Velara," Jiho said, bowing slightly the way his training taught him. "I'm Jiho. I'll be helping your delegation with human customs for the summit." Velara stopped walking. She stood completely still, staring at him. The light patterns on her skin flickered rapidly, turning from blue to purple to something almost white. Her crystalline eyes went wide. Jiho waited. Had he done something wrong already? Maybe the bow was offensive to her people? Velara's voice was musical, like wind chimes. "I must go." "Excuse me." She turned and walked out quickly, her robes swishing behind her. The door closed. Jiho stood alone, confused. That had lasted maybe 30 seconds. He looked down at his datapad. Nothing in his research said the Kylen were shy or easily startled. In fact, they were known as excellent diplomats. He must have made a mistake somehow. Jiho sighed and made a note to research Kylen greeting customs more carefully. What he didn't know was that in her quarters, Velara was sitting on the floor with her head in her hands. Her aide, Suri, knelt beside her with worry in her own crystalline eyes. "What happened?" Suri asked. "You were only gone a moment." "The human," Velara whispered. "The one called Jiho. I felt it, Suri." "The resonance," Suri gasped. "That's impossible. You've only just seen him. The bonding resonance takes years to develop. And only between our own kind." "I know what I felt." Velara's patterns were still flickering wildly, unable to settle into one color. "The moment I saw him, it was like my soul recognized something. Like finding the other half of myself. It was exactly as the elders describe. The bonding call. A mind dissevered. The Kylen bonded only once in their lifetime. It was the deepest connection their species could form. A joining of minds and hearts so complete that if one partner died, the other would follow within days. They chose their mates carefully, spending years in courtship to be certain, and they had never, ever, bonded with another species. "You must tell the elders," Suri said quietly. "This is unprecedented." "They'll remove me from the station," Velara said. "They'll send me home and forbid contact with him." "Better that then." Suri didn't finish. They both knew. If Velara let the bond begin to form, and then was separated from Jiho, it could kill her. Later that evening, Jiho tried again. He had found Velara's delegation in one of the station's gardens. A beautiful place, with plants from a dozen worlds. He approached carefully, keeping his distance. "Ambassador Velara," he called out. "May I speak with you? I apologize if I offended you earlier. It wasn't my intention." Velara stood among purple flowers that glowed faintly in the artificial twilight. She looked at him, and again her patterns flickered. But this time, she didn't run. "You did nothing wrong," she said softly. "The fault is mine. I was unprepared." "For what?" Jiho asked honestly. "I'd like to understand, so I don't make the same mistake." Velara's patterns shifted to a deep blue. Sadness. Though Jiho didn't know that yet. "You couldn't possibly understand." "Try me," Jiho said with a small smile. "Understanding confusing things is literally my job." For a moment, Velara almost told him. The words were right there. But fear held her back. How could she explain that her entire biology was calling out to him, that every instinct in her body was telling her he was meant to be hers? He would think she was insane. Perhaps another time, she said. The hour is late. She walked away, leaving Jiho standing in the garden, more confused than before. The next day, Velara met with the Kylan elders via holographic communication. 5 ancient faces appeared before her, their patterns slow and steady with age. This is troubling, Elder Thurana said. She was the oldest. Her silver skin marked with permanent gold streaks from her own bond. Completed 200 years ago. A bonding call with a human. Such a thing has never occurred. What should I do? Velara asked. The resonance grows stronger each time I see him. Already I find myself listening for his voice, seeking his presence. You must avoid him, another elder said firmly. Request transfer immediately. This cannot be allowed to develop, but Elder Thurana held up her hand. Wait, perhaps we should not be so hasty. She leaned forward, her ancient eyes studying Velara through the hologram. The bonding call has never been wrong. Not once in all our recorded history. If your soul truly recognizes this human, who are we to deny it? You cannot be serious, another elder protested. He is alien, different biology, different culture. The bond might kill them both. Or, Thurana said quietly, it might be exactly what the universe intended. I say we watch and wait. Let Velara decide her own path. But child, she looked at Velara, you must be honest with this human. If the bond continues to form, he deserves to know what is happening. Velara nodded slowly. I understand. Over the next week, Jiho saw Velara often for diplomatic preparations. Each meeting was polite, but distant. She would answer his questions about Kylan customs, but never stayed longer than necessary. She never met his eyes for more than a moment. Jiho found himself thinking about her at odd times. The way her patterns moved like living art. Her musical voice. The sadness he sometimes saw in her crystalline eyes. He told himself it was just professional curiosity. He'd never met a Kylan before. But late at night, alone in his quarters, he admitted it was more than that. There was something about her that pulled at him. Something he couldn't name. On the station, Suri watched her friend suffer. Velara's patterns were becoming erratic, flickering between colors without settling. She ate little. She slept less. You're fighting the bond, Suri said. It's making you sick. I have to fight it, Velara whispered. What choice do I have? I can't trap him in something he doesn't understand. I can't force this on him. Then tell him the truth, Suri urged. Let him choose. And if he runs? If he's horrified? Velara's patterns flashed white with fear. The bond is already forming. Rejection now would. She didn't need to finish. They both knew what happened when a Kylan's bonding call was rejected after it had begun to take hold. The pain, the sickness, the eventual death. Velara was trapped between 2 impossible choices. Tell Jiho the truth and risk everything. Or continue to suffer in silence until her body gave out completely. In 3 weeks, the summit would begin. In 3 weeks, her delegation would leave the station. In 3 weeks, she would never see Jiho again, unless she found the courage to speak. The diplomatic dinner was supposed to be simple. Representatives from 6 species gathered in the station's grand hall to discuss trade agreements. Jiho sat at the human table, reviewing his notes. Across the room, Velara stood with her delegation, her patterns a dim, sickly gray. Jiho frowned. Even from this distance, he could see she looked unwell. Over the past 2 weeks, her glow had faded. She moved slowly, carefully, like someone in pain. He'd asked Suri about it yesterday, but the other Kylan had just given him a strange, sad look, and walked away. The lights flickered once. Then again, attention, the station's computer voice announced. Power fluctuation detected in Section 7. Implementing safety protocols. Open Seinsen. The power fluctuation. Open Seinsen. Open Seinsen. The room's main doors slammed shut with a heavy thud. Emergency lighting kicked in. bathing everything in dim red. People stood up, murmuring in various languages. Please remain calm, the computer continued. Backup power will restore in approximately 8 hours. You are safe. The environmental systems are functioning normally. 8 hours. Jiho sighed and sat back down. These things happened on space stations. Nothing to do but wait. He noticed movement and looked up. Velara was walking toward him, unsteady on her feet. Before he could stand to help, she collapsed. Jiho ran. He caught her before she hit the floor, her body surprisingly light in his arms. Her skin was cool to the touch, and her patterns barely flickered with any light at all. Ambassador Velara? He lowered her gently to the ground. Can you hear me? Her eyes opened slowly. Jiho, she whispered. Just his name, but something in the way she said it made his heart beat faster. Suri appeared beside them. I'll take her, she said. Reaching down. She needs medical help, Jiho said. We should call. No doctors, Velara said weakly. Why not? Jiho demanded. You're clearly sick. You've been sick for days. I've seen it. Velara's crystalline eyes met his, and for the first time, she didn't look away. Because the sickness is not from disease, it is from denial. Before Jiho could ask what that meant, the secondary lights failed. The room plunged into complete darkness except for emergency floor lighting. In the chaos, people called out, trying to find their delegations. We need to move her somewhere quieter, Suri said, away from the crowd. Together, they helped Velara through a side door into a smaller meeting room. The door sealed behind them with a click. The three of them were alone in the darkness, lit only by the faint glow of Velara's patterns and a small emergency light in the corner. Jiho helped Velara sit against the wall. What did you mean? Denial? He asked. What are you denying? Suri looked at Velara, who closed her eyes. Tell him, Suri said gently. Or I will. You're dying, and he deserves to know why. He deserves to know why. Dying, Jiho's voice cracked. What are you talking about? Dying. Velara was quiet for a long moment. Her patterns pulsed slowly, weak and fading. Finally, she spoke. My people bond only once in our lives, she began. It is not like human marriage or partnership. It is deeper. Biological. Spiritual. When a Kylan finds their true mate, a resonance begins. Our minds connect, our hearts synchronize. We become two parts of one whole. I've read about this, Jiho said. It's in all the cultural files. Your species takes bonding very seriously. What the files do not say, Velara continued, her voice barely above a whisper, is what happens when the bond begins and is then denied. The resonance, once started, cannot be stopped, only completed. If a Kylan rejects the bond or is separated from their chosen mate after the resonance begins, they will sicken and die. Jiho felt cold. But you're not bonded to anyone. You came here alone. Yes, Velara said. She opened her eyes and looked directly at him. I came here alone. And then I met you. The words hung in the air between them. Jiho stared at her, not understanding at first. Then slowly, piece by piece, it came together. Her reaction when they first met. The way she avoided him. Her growing sickness. Suri's sad looks. Me? He whispered. But I'm human. You said your people only bond with other Kylan. That is what we believed, Velara said. For thousands of years, it has always been true, until 3 weeks ago, until you. Her patterns flickered slightly brighter, responding to his nearness. The moment I saw you, I felt the resonance. My soul recognized you. And every day since, the bond has been trying to form. Every day since, I have been fighting it. Why? The word burst from Jiho. Why would you fight it if it's killing you? Because I will not trap you, Velara said fiercely. The bond is forever, Jiho. If I complete it, we will be connected for the rest of our lives. You would feel my emotions. I would feel yours. We would need each other's presence to stay healthy. If one of us dies, the other follows within days. She looked away. How could I force such a thing on you? You did not ask for this. You do not even know me. Jiho sat back, his mind spinning. This was impossible. This was insane. He looked at Velara, really looked at her. At her fading light. At the pain in her eyes. At the way her hands trembled. She was dying. Because of him. Because she was trying to protect him from a choice he'd never been given the chance to make. How long? He asked quietly. What? How long do you have? If you keep fighting the bond, how long until? The medical scans say 2 weeks, Suri answered when Velara stayed silent. Maybe 3. After that, her body will shut down completely. And if she completes the bond, then she lives, Suri said simply. And you would be bonded to her for life. 8 hours in this room. 8 hours trapped in the darkness with a woman who was dying because she wouldn't let herself love him. Jiho stood and paced to the window. Outside, stars blazed in the endless black. Humanity had reached for those stars for so long. His whole life. He'd dreamed of being out here, meeting other species, learning from them. And now, one of those species was offering him something humans had only dreamed about in stories. A real, deep connection. A bond that went beyond words. It terrified him. Tell me about it, he said, turning back to Velara. Not the biology. Not the facts. Tell me what it feels like. Velara's patterns shifted to a soft gold. It feels like coming home, she said quietly. Like finding something I did not know I was missing. When you are near, the world makes more sense. When you speak, I want to hear every word. When you smile, which is rare, I feel it like sunlight. She touched her chest. Here. The resonance lives here, pulling me toward you like gravity. Like you are the center, and I am meant to orbit around you. That sounds one-sided, Jiho said. It is not, Velara replied. If we bonded, you would feel the same. You would sense my presence, know my feelings, miss me when we were apart. The bond makes equals of 2 souls. Jiho came back and sat down in front of her. I've felt something, he admitted. I thought I was going crazy. I'd be working and suddenly think about you. Wonder what you were doing. If you were okay, I'd hear your voice in the halls and my heart would jump. He laughed shakily. I told myself it was just attraction. Cultural fascination. Perhaps it was the beginning of the resonance, Velara said. Your human mind trying to understand what your soul already knew. They sat in silence for a while. The station's environmental systems hummed quietly around them. Somewhere far away, engineers were probably working to restore power. Out there, life continued normally. In here, everything had changed. If I said yes, Jiho said slowly. If I agreed to the bond, what would happen? We would need to perform the bonding ceremony, Velara explained. 3 days of meditation, synchronization, and connection. At the end, we would be bonded. Forever. And if I say no, then I go home to die, Velara said simply. And you continue your life. Free of this burden. Don't call it a burden, Jiho said sharply. You're not a burden. You're a person who's suffering, and I hate that. He ran his hands through his hair. I hate that you've been going through this alone, that you didn't think you could tell me. I am telling you now, Velara said. Only because you collapsed, Jiho pointed out. You would have died in silence. Yes, Velara agreed. Because you deserve the freedom to choose your own life. Jiho looked at her for a long moment. So do you, he said finally. You deserve to choose life. The emergency lights flickered. The main power was coming back online. Soon the doors would open. Soon they would have to rejoin the world. I need time, Jiho said. It's a lot. I can't decide something this big in one night. Of course, Velara said, though her patterns dimmed with disappointment. I understand. But I'm not saying no, Jiho added quickly. I'm saying I need to think, to understand what this really means. Can you give me that? I can give you time, Velara said. Though not much. My body will not wait forever. The lights came on fully. The door unsealed with a hiss. Jiho stood and offered Velara his hand. She took it, and where their skin touched, both felt something. A warmth. A rightness. A connection that hummed just below the surface. Waiting for a choice. Jiho didn't sleep that night. He sat in his quarters, staring at the ceiling, thinking about everything Velara had told him. A bond that lasted forever. A connection deeper than anything humans had. A choice that would change his entire life. He was afraid. Of course he was afraid. What sane person wouldn't be? But he was also something else. Curious. Drawn. Hopeful. In a strange way, he thought about his best friend, Taemin, who flew shuttles for the station. Taemin would tell him he was crazy. His family back on Earth would probably agree. The smart choice was to walk away, let Velara go home, let her people deal with this impossible situation. Except that meant letting her die. Jiho pressed his palms against his eyes. When had his life become so complicated? His door chimed. He opened it to find Taemin standing there with 2 cups of coffee. You look terrible, Taemin said, pushing past him into the room. Heard about the power failure. Heard you were trapped with the Kylan ambassador. Figured you might need this. He handed Jiho a cup. Thanks, Jiho muttered. They sat together in silence for a while. Finally, Taemin spoke. Want to talk about it? And Jiho found himself telling everything. About Velara. About the bond. About the choice he had to make. Taemin listened without interrupting, his expression growing more serious with every word. When Jiho finished, Taemin was quiet for a long moment. So you're telling me an alien is dying because she's in love with you, but she won't let herself have you because it would mean you'd be bonded forever? That's the simple version, yes. And you have feelings for her too? Jiho hesitated. I don't know. Maybe? I barely know her. But there's something there. Something that feels right. Like recognition. Then what's the question? Taemin asked. You want to save her life. You're attracted to her. Why are you still sitting here? Because it's forever, Taemin, Jiho said. Forever. I can't take it back. I can't change my mind. And I've known her for 3 weeks. 3 weeks. People date for years before marriage. And this is bigger than marriage. True, Taemin agreed. But those people don't have certainty. They hope it'll work. They guess. You have alien biology literally telling you that you're compatible, that you match. How many humans can say that? Jiho laughed despite himself. That's a weird way to look at it. I'm a weird guy, Taemin said with a shrug. But seriously, Jiho, I've known you for 6 years. You don't make rash decisions. You think everything through. You're careful, safe. He paused. Maybe too safe. When was the last time you did something just because it felt right? Not because it made sense, but because your gut told you to. Jiho didn't have an answer. Look, Taemin continued, I can't tell you what to do. This is huge, life-changing, terrifying. But let me ask you this. Would you regret saying yes? Or would you regret saying no and wondering, what if, for the rest of your life? That was the question, wasn't it? Jiho closed his eyes and imagined it. Walking away. Going back to his normal life. Never seeing Velara again. Never knowing what the bond could have been, and knowing she had died because he'd been too afraid to try. His heart physically hurt at the thought. Then he imagined the other path, saying yes. The bonding ceremony, a life connected to Velara, understanding her, being understood, building something together, something unprecedented, something beautiful. That didn't hurt. That felt like possibility. I need to see her, Jiho said suddenly, standing up. Right now, Taemin grinned. Now that's more like it. Jiho found Velara in the meditation garden. She sat alone among glowing blue flowers, her patterns barely visible. When she saw him, she stood slowly. Jiho, she said. I did not expect. I choose yes, Jiho interrupted. His heart was pounding, but his voice was steady. I choose the bond. I choose you. Velara froze. Her patterns flickered rapidly, confusion and hope mixing together. You. What? I've been thinking all night, Jiho said, walking closer. And yes, this is scary. Yes, it's fast. Yes, it's going to change everything. But you know what? Good things usually do. You're dying because you wanted to protect me. Because you're kind and selfless and honest. Those are not bad reasons to start a life with someone. Jiho, you must be certain, Velara said urgently. Once the bond is complete, I know. It's forever. I get it. He reached out and took her hands. They were trembling. But here's what I figured out. Humans spend our whole lives reaching for the stars, hoping to find something out here. Connection. Meaning. Proof that we're not alone in the universe. You're offering me all of that. Why would I say no? Velara's patterns blazed suddenly bright, gold and white and silver all at once. You truly want this? You want me? I want the chance to know you, Jiho said honestly. I want to see where this goes. I want to not spend my life wondering what if. Does that count? It counts, Velara whispered. Her eyes were shining. It counts more than you know. They stood there together, hands linked, while the garden glowed around them. And for the first time in weeks, Velara's patterns settled into a steady, healthy light. The bonding ceremony began 2 days later. The Kailen prepared a special chamber on their ship, filled with crystals that hummed with harmonic frequencies. Jiho and Velara would spend 3 days there, meditating together, synchronizing their biorhythms, allowing the bond to form naturally. But before the ceremony could start, Jiho's commanding officer called him in. Admiral Doyun sat behind his desk, his face stern. I've been informed you intend to undergo a Kailen bonding ceremony with Ambassador Velara. Is this true? Yes, sir, Jiho said. Are you aware this violates first contact protocols? We're not supposed to form intimate relationships with alien species during diplomatic missions. I'm aware of the protocols, sir. But this isn't just a relationship. If I don't do this, Velara will die. That's her problem, not yours, Doyun said coldly. You're not responsible for alien biology. Jiho felt anger rise in his chest. With respect, sir, I disagree. If I have the power to save someone's life and choose not to, that makes it my problem. You're thinking emotionally, not logically, Doyun snapped. This bond will tie you to her forever. You'll be at her mercy. What if it's some kind of control mechanism? What if this is how the Kailen manipulate other species? The Kailen have never bonded with another species before, Jiho countered. This isn't manipulation. It's biology. And I'm going into it with full knowledge and consent. I could order you not to do this. Yes, sir, you could. Jiho met his eyes steadily. But you won't. Because that would be ordering me to let someone die. And that's not who we are as humans. Doyun stared at him for a long moment. Finally, he sighed. If you do this, there will be consequences. Political backlash. Questions about your judgment. Your career will suffer. I understand, sir. And you're willing to accept that? Jiho thought about Velara waiting for him, about the bond they would share, about choosing love over fear. Yes, sir, I am. The ceremony was beautiful. Jiho and Velara sat facing each other in the crystal chamber. Their hands joined. The crystals sang around them, a sound that resonated in Jiho's bones. Slowly, carefully, he felt his heartbeat begin to match Velara's. Their breathing synchronized. On the second day, the mental connection opened. Jiho felt Velara's emotions, as clearly as his own. Her joy, her relief, her deep, overwhelming love for him. It should have been frightening, but it wasn't. It felt natural. Right. He shared his own feelings back. His fear, yes, but also his hope, his curiosity, his growing affection for this brave, selfless woman who had tried so hard to protect him. On the third day, the bond completed. Jiho felt it lock into place like a key in a lock. Suddenly, Velara wasn't just beside him. She was part of him. He could sense her presence, warm and steady, connected to his own soul. Velara's patterns flared brilliant gold, the permanent mark of a bonded Kailen. She was crying, her crystalline tears catching the light. I feel you, Jiho whispered. Is this what it's like for you? Yes, Velara said. Welcome home, my bondmate. They emerged from the chamber to find the galaxy had noticed. News of the first human-Kailan bond had spread across every species' networks. Some celebrated it as a beautiful example of interspecies connection. Others condemned it as dangerous and unprecedented. Admiral Doyun was furious. He called Jiho to his office again. You're being reassigned, Doyun said flatly. Back to Earth. Effective immediately. Sir, I can't leave, Jiho protested. Velara has to stay for her diplomatic duties. The bond. I don't care about the bond, Doyun interrupted. You violated protocols. You've created an interstellar incident. You're going home. If he leaves me, we'll both die, Velara said. She'd come with Jiho, standing beside him. The Kailan have never bonded across space. Our mates stay together always. Separation will destabilize the bond. Then you should have thought of that before you trapped him, Doyun said harshly. She didn't trap me, Jiho said angrily. I chose this. Freely. She tried to die rather than force this on me. How is that trapping? You have 1 week, Doyun said. Then you're on a transport to Earth. Figure out your alien problem before then. Outside the office, Jiho leaned against the wall, his mind racing. Velara touched his arm gently. I'm sorry, she whispered. This is my fault. No, Jiho said firmly. He pulled her close, feeling the bond hum between them. This is their fault, for being afraid of something beautiful. We'll figure it out. Together. Velara echoed, but as they walked back to their quarters, both felt the clock ticking. 1 week. 7 days to find a solution, or face death together. The galaxy had taken notice of them. Now they would have to fight to survive. The headaches started on the third day. Jiho was reviewing legal documents when the pain struck like lightning behind his eyes. Across the station, in her own quarters, Velara gasped and pressed her hands to her temples. Through the bond, they felt each other's pain double, then triple. This was what separation would do to them. This was what would kill them. Dr. Hana, the station's chief medical officer, scanned them both that afternoon. She was a short woman with sharp eyes and graying hair. After 20 minutes of tests, she sat down heavily. The bond is destabilizing, she said bluntly. Your neural patterns are trying to stay synchronized, but stress and fear are disrupting them. If you actually separate, traveling light years apart. She shook her head. I give you 3 months, maybe less. Can you explain this to Admiral Doyun? Jiho asked. Make him understand? I've sent him 3 reports, Hana said. He won't read them. He's convinced this is psychological, not biological. He thinks you're both just being dramatic. Velara's patterns flickered dim blue. Grief. My people have never bonded across distance. We cannot survive it. This is known. Then we need to change the situation, Jiho said. He looked at Hana. What if we could prove the bond is valuable? Not just a personal thing, but useful for diplomacy? Would that matter? Maybe, Hana said slowly. But you'd need to prove it fast. You have 4 days left. That evening, Taman visited with news. You're famous. he said, showing Jiho his datapad. Look at this. The screen showed news reports from Earth, thousands of articles, millions of social media posts. Humans everywhere were talking about Jiho and Velara. Some comments were angry. He betrayed humanity by bonding with an alien. This is mind control, not love. Humans should stay with humans. But more comments were supportive. So many more. This is beautiful. Love crossing species barriers. If we can't connect with aliens, why did we go to the stars? Let them be happy. Free Jiho and Velara. A petition had started, demanding that Earth's government intervene. In just 3 days, it had gathered 5 million signatures. People care about your story, Taman said. They see themselves in you. The human who took a risk for love. They want you to win. Jiho felt something warm in his chest. Hope, maybe. This is incredible. It gets better. Taman grinned. Check this out. He pulled up a video. A woman stood on the deck of a cargo ship. Dozens of other ships visible behind her. She wore a pilot's jacket and had determined eyes. My name is Captain Yuna Lee, she said to the camera. I run a civilian freight company, and I'm here to say that I will not let the Earth government kill 2 innocent people for the crime of loving each other. If they try to force Jiho onto that transport, my ships will block it. Accidentally, of course. She smiled. Engine troubles. Navigation errors. These things happen in space. Could take weeks to fix. Behind her, other captains raised their fists in agreement. Jiho laughed in disbelief. She's organizing a blockade? She's not the only one, Taman said. Look at the forums. Pilots from 6 colonies are volunteering. They'll delay that transport however long it takes. Velara entered the room, drawn by Jiho's sudden surge of emotion through the bond. What's happening? Humanity is happening, Jiho said, pulling her close. They're fighting for us. On Earth, Professor Mina Kang published a research paper that went viral. She was a xenosociologist, respected in academic circles. Her paper was titled, The Kylan Bond, Humanity's Bridge to Deeper Galactic Integration. In it, she argued that Jiho and Velara's bond proved humans were neurologically compatible with more species than anyone had guessed. This wasn't a weakness. It was an evolutionary advantage. It meant humans could form deeper alliances, better understanding, stronger partnerships with alien species. The Kylan bond could create perfect diplomatic teams, she wrote. Partners who can sense deception, work in absolute trust, and bridge cultural gaps with unprecedented effectiveness. We should be studying this, not punishing it. Her paper was shared millions of times. Universities requested follow-up studies. Other scientists began discussing the implications. The tide was turning, but Admiral Doyun remained unmoved. On the 5th day, he called Jiho in one final time. I've been ordered to delay your transfer, he said, his jaw tight. Political pressure. Public opinion. The Earth government doesn't want the backlash. He leaned forward. But don't think you've won. You're still in violation of protocols. You're still a problem. I'm a person, Jiho said quietly. So is Velara. We're not a problem. We're just 2 people trying to survive. You're a symbol now, Doyun countered. And symbols are dangerous. That gave Jiho an idea. If they were a symbol anyway, why not use it? He requested an emergency session with the Galactic Coalition Council. To his surprise, they agreed. Apparently, everyone wanted to hear what the famous bonded pair had to say. The council chamber was enormous, with representatives from 40 species seated in a circle. Jiho and Velara stood in the center, hands joined, the bond thrumming between them. Elder Thurana was there, representing the Kylan. She gave Velara an encouraging nod. Jiho took a breath and began to speak. Honored council members, he said. 3 weeks ago, I met Velara for the first time. 3 days ago, we completed a Kylan bonding ceremony. Now, my own government wants to separate us, which will kill us both. I'm here to propose an alternative. He pulled up data on the main screen. Medical scans, neural pattern analysis, synchronization reports. The bond between Velara and me is not a weakness, it's a strength. Look at these scans. Our minds work together now. We can sense each other's thoughts and feelings. We can coordinate without speaking. We can detect lies and truth in others, because we know what genuine emotion feels like through our own connection. He changed the display to show Professor Kang's research. Humans might be able to bond with multiple species, not just the Kylan. Imagine the diplomatic possibilities. Bonded teams could negotiate treaties with unprecedented trust. They could serve in dangerous situations, each protecting the other with perfect coordination. They could bridge the gap between species in ways we've never achieved. A reptilian council member spoke up. This is speculation. You have no proof. Then let us be the proof, Velara said, her musical voice clear. Give us a mission. Test us. We will show you what a bonded pair can achieve. Another council member, a being made of crystalline structures, chimed in. What kind of mission? Jiho had prepared for this. The border territories. The ancient ruins in the contested zones. You've been trying to explore them for years. But they're too dangerous. Too unstable. Send us. We'll document what we find and demonstrate how the bond enhances our abilities. The council murmured among themselves. Finally, Elder Thirana stood. I support this proposal, she said. My people have bonded for thousands of years. I know its power. If Jiho and Velara can show the galaxy what bonded partners can accomplish, it benefits everyone, and it saves 2 lives that deserve to be saved. The vote was close. Some council members worried about setting precedent. Others feared encouraging more interspecies bonding. But in the end, curiosity and compassion won. 23 votes for, 17 against. The proposal passes, the council leader announced. Jiho and Velara will be assigned to the exploration vessel Horizon's Edge. They will have 6 months to prove the value of their bond. After that, the council will vote again on whether to make their union permanent or demand separation. 6 months. It wasn't freedom, but it was a chance. Outside the chamber, Jiho and Velara held each other. Relief flooded through the bond so strongly that both of them shook with it. We did it, Jiho whispered. We actually did it. No, Velara corrected gently. Humanity did it. Your people fought for us when they had no reason to. They chose love over fear. That is what saved us. Taman found them later, grinning widely. Heard the news. You 2 are going to the border territories. That's dangerous work. We know, Jiho said. You'll need a good pilot, Taman said. Lucky for you. I just requested transfer to the Horizon's Edge. Couldn't let you have all the fun. Jiho hugged his friend. Thank you. For everything. That's what friends do, Taman said simply. We show up. That night, Jiho and Velara stood together in the observation deck where they'd first met. The stars stretched endlessly before them. Are you afraid? Velara asked through the bond. Yes, Jiho admitted. But I'm also excited. We're going to prove everyone wrong. We're going to show them what love can do. Love and stubbornness, Velara said with a smile. A very human combination. You're part human now. Jiho teased. Through the bond. Does that make you stubborn too? Perhaps, Velara said. She leaned against him, her patterns glowing soft gold. I think I can live with that. They had 6 months to prove themselves. 6 months to show the galaxy that their bond was real, valuable, and worth protecting. 6 months to change everything. They would make it count. 6 months changed everything. The Horizon's Edge was a medium-sized exploration ship with a crew of 30. Captain Junho led them with quiet confidence. At first, the crew was skeptical of the bonded pair. Humans and aliens working together was normal. But a human bonded to an alien? That was different. Strange. Uncomfortable. Jiho and Velara proved themselves slowly, one mission at a time. When they explored unstable asteroids, Velara's ability to sense energy patterns combined with Jiho's intuition for danger. They could warn the crew of collapses before instruments detected them. When they negotiated with territorial alien miners, the bond let them present a united front, sensing each other's strategies without speaking. Slowly, the crew's doubt turned to respect. Nari, the ship's engineer, became Velara's close friend. She was a cheerful woman who loved terrible jokes. "I still don't understand how the bond works," she admitted one day while they repaired a power relay together. "But I see what it does. You two move like you're reading each other's minds." "Sometimes we are," Velara said with a smile. Her patterns glowed warm whenever she worked. She was happy here. Healthy. Thriving. "Does it ever feel like too much?" Nari asked. Velara considered this. "Sometimes, yes. When Jiho is sad or afraid. I feel it too. But I also feel his joy, his excitement, his love. The good outweighs the difficult. And knowing I'm not alone in my own emotions, that someone truly understands what I feel, that's worth everything." In his own quarters, Jiho told Taemin something similar. "It's intense," he admitted. "Sometimes I wish I could turn it off. Just for an hour. Have some privacy in my own head. But then I remember what life was like before Velara. Lonelier, quieter, less colorful. I wouldn't trade this for anything." I wouldn't. The real test came 5 months into their mission. The Horizon's Edge received a distress call from an archaeological team studying ancient ruins on a dead planet. The team had gone silent 3 days ago. Captain Junho decided to investigate. The ruins were massive, built by a civilization that died out thousands of years ago. Towers of black stone reached toward the gray sky. Strange symbols covered every surface. The archaeological team's ship sat empty near the main structure. "Scan shows life signs inside the ruins," Nari reported. "Faint, but there. 6 people. Could be a trap," Captain Junho said. He was a careful man, scarred from years of exploration. "Could be the ruins' defense systems activated. Today, we have to try," Jiho said. "They could be dying." Junho looked at him, then at Velara. "You two go. Take Taemin and Corvin. Find the team and get out fast. First sign of trouble, you retreat." "Understood?" "Understood," they said together. The 4 of them entered the ruins carefully. Corvin was a reptilian alien, strong and steady. His scales gleamed dull green in the dim light. Taemin carried emergency medical supplies. Jiho and Velara walked side by side, the bond humming between them. Inside, the ruins were dark. Their lights barely pierced the shadows. The air felt wrong, heavy and old. Strange sounds echoed from deeper in the structure. "I don't like this," Taemin muttered. "Agreed," Corvin growled. They found the archaeological team in a large chamber, trapped behind a shimmering energy barrier. 6 people, human and alien, looked exhausted and terrified. One was injured, lying on the ground. "Thank the stars," the team leader gasped. "We triggered some kind of defense system. We've been trying to disable it for 3 days. But every time we touch the controls, it gets worse." Jiho studied the energy barrier. Ancient technology. Far beyond anything modern species used. The control panel was covered in symbols that hurt to look at directly. "Velara?" he said quietly. She stepped forward, her patterns shifting as she concentrated. Kylan could perceive energy in ways humans couldn't. Through the bond, Jiho felt what she felt. The barrier wasn't just electricity. It was complex, layered, alive in some way. "The pattern," Velara murmured. "I can see it, but it's changing constantly. I would need to predict the changes to disable it safely." "I can help with prediction," Jiho said. Pattern recognition was one of his strengths. "Show me what you see. Show me what you see." This was the bond at its best. Velara shared her perception through their connection. Jiho saw the energy flows as she did. Impossible colors and shapes that his human eyes couldn't naturally perceive. His mind processed the patterns, finding the logic in the chaos. There, he said, pointing. That sequence repeats every 47 seconds. If you can interrupt it right at the peak. I see it, Velara finished. Her hands moved over the control panel. Guided by their combined understanding, the barrier flickered once, twice, then it collapsed. The archaeological team stumbled out, cheering weakly. Taman rushed to help the injured person, but the ruins weren't finished with them. A grinding sound filled the chamber. The walls began to shake. Dust rained from the ceiling. We triggered a collapse, the team leader shouted. Run! They ran. The ruins were falling apart around them. Ancient stone crumbling after millennia. Jiho and Velara moved together perfectly, the bond letting them coordinate without words. When debris blocked a path, they found another route together. When someone fell, they were there to help. Halfway out, the ceiling above Taman cracked. A massive stone slab began to fall. Jiho saw it through Velara's eyes before his own registered the danger. He threw himself forward, tackling Taman out of the way. The stone crashed down inches from them both, but the impact separated Jiho from the group. He was on one side of the collapsed stone. Everyone else was on the other. Jiho, Taman shouted. I'm okay, Jiho called back. Keep going. I'll find another way out. Through the bond, Velara felt his fear, his determination. She felt him moving through the dark ruins alone, searching for an exit. He's heading east, she told the others. I can feel him. We need to get to the east entrance. How can you know that? Corvin asked. The bond, Velara said simply. I always know where he is. They raced through the collapsing ruins. Velara guided them, following the warm thread of connection that linked her to Jiho. Even separated by walls and distance, she could sense him. His heartbeat matched hers, his fear mixed with her own, but also his trust. He knew she would find him. They reached the east entrance just as Jiho emerged from a different tunnel, covered in dust but unharmed. The ruins collapsed completely behind him with a massive roar. Velara grabbed him, holding tight. Relief flooded through the bonds so strongly that both of them trembled. I knew you'd find me, Jiho said. Always, Velara promised. They got everyone back to the ship safely. The injured archaeologist would survive. The mission was a success. That night, Captain Junho called Jiho and Velara to his office. That was impressive work today, he said. The way you two moved together, communicated without speaking, coordinated under pressure. I've never seen anything like it. He paused. When I first heard about your bond, I thought it was a liability. Something that would make you weak. I was wrong. You're stronger together than most teams are after years of training. Thank you, sir, Jiho said. I'm writing a recommendation to the council, Junho continued. I'm telling them that bonded pairs should be standard for dangerous missions. That what you have is valuable, not just to you, but to everyone. After they left his office, Jiho and Velara stood in the observation deck, their favorite place on the ship. They watched the stars together, hands linked. We did it, Jiho said softly. We proved the bond works. We proved love works, Velara corrected. That choosing each other, even when it's difficult, was right. The next week, they received news from the council. The vote had been held early, prompted by Captain Junho's report and dozens of similar testimonials from the crew. The result: 37 votes for, 3 against. The bond was officially recognized as valid and permanent. Jiho and Velara were free. No more tests. No more proving themselves. They could simply live. 2 years later, Jiho stood in the same observation deck where he'd first met Velara. But this time, he wasn't alone. Velara stood beside him, her patterns glowing soft gold. And in his arms, wrapped in a blanket, was their daughter. Sarah was beautiful. She had her mother's silver skin, but it was warmer, touched with human bronze. Her eyes were brown like Jiho's, but they had a crystalline quality to them. Small patterns of light moved along her tiny arms, dimmer than her mother's, but definitely there. She's perfect, Taman said from behind them. He'd become Sarah's honorary uncle, visiting whenever his shuttle routes brought him near. She's impossible, Jiho said with a laugh. The doctors said human and Kylan biology couldn't produce offspring. They said we were too different. Your entire relationship has been impossible, Taman pointed out. Why stop now? Velara smiled, her patterns brightening with happiness. She is proof, she said. Proof that love finds a way. Proof that choosing each other was right. Proof that different species can build something beautiful together. Sayera made a small sound, her patterns flickering in response to her parents' emotions. Already, the doctor said. She showed signs of being able to sense feelings like her mother's people, but she also had her father's curious mind, his determination. What will you tell her? Taman asked. When she's old enough to understand. About the bond. About everything you went through. Jiho looked at Velara. Through the bond, he felt her answer before she spoke it. We'll tell her the truth, Velara said. That love is a choice. That her father chose to bond with me even though it terrified him. That I chose to trust him with my heart, even though I could have died. That both our peoples chose to support us instead of pushing us apart. We'll tell her she gets to make her own choices too, Jiho added, gently rocking Sayera. About her life. Her future. Her own bonds. If she wants them. Because that's what being human is about. Choice. Freedom. The courage to build bridges instead of walls. Through the window, Earth hung in the distance, blue and beautiful. Somewhere down there, 3 more human Kylan bonded pairs had formed in the years since Jiho and Velara. Each one, a careful choice. Each one proof that different species could find connection. The galaxy was changing, slowly, but changing. And it had started here, with a young linguist and an alien ambassador who chose each other despite every reason not to. Who proved that love could cross any distance, bridge any difference, survive any test. Sayera yawned, her small patterns dimming as she started to fall asleep. Jiho kissed her forehead gently. Welcome to the universe, little one, he whispered. You're going to help change it. Through the bond, Velara shared her absolute certainty that he was right. Their daughter would grow up in a galaxy where bonding across species was possible. Where love was celebrated, not feared. Where the barriers between different peoples grew smaller every day. All because 2 people had chosen each other. All because humanity had proven, once again, that their greatest strength wasn't their weapons, or their ships, or their technology. It was their stubborn, beautiful, impossible refusal to let fear win over hope. It was their capacity to love, and that made all the difference.